Hello everybody, this is what we're making today. It's a lovely Father Christmas decoupage bottle, nice and Christmassy, got some glitter, some sparkle, some shine. It's a nice quick one today. It's only about 11 minutes long, the video. Obviously the bottle takes longer, and this is how I make it. I clean the bottle with isopropyl alcohol rub. I use these little lint-free wipes. They're the same ones that you would use on gel nails when you know once you've cured them, to get the sticky bit off. Clean off fingerprints and all the rest of it. I spray the bottle with primer. I get primer spray bottle from Amazon. It's called Colour It. It's quite cheap, 2-pack for something like £7, £8. Goes quite far because you don't need to cover the full bottle. I then paint the bottle white. I use emulsion paint. I've tried chalk paint. I don't really like it using it. I don't like the feel of it. I don't like the texture, so I use emulsion. I do two coats, and then this is a very pale grey. It's a tester pot that we actually used in our bedroom to see what colour we wanted, and I sponge it on. It's just a kitchen sponge, cheap as chips. Sponge it all over, but I leave the white, so you know it's a two-tonal grey and white bottle. And I put it on very lightly. As you can see on that bit of card, I literally take nearly all of the paint off. As it's on there so thin, I leave it to dry for about an hour before I add the napkin. The napkin is this Santa Claus with a little robin, and I've got these from Temu, only a couple of £, if that. I cut the square out. I'm going to actually use the whole of the square this time. Normally I'd cut, around the main sort of picture, but I wanted to keep the whole one this time. Next to Santa, it's kind of like a grey sponged effect, kind of Christmas trees or trees. So I decided that I wanted to keep the whole thing. Take off the back layer. Some napkins have 2 layers, some only have 1. This one only had 1. And then I will attach or glue the napkin down using Mod Podge in the mat. It's also a sealer, and I'll use it in very thin strips. So I work in very thin. Let me get my words out right. Blah, 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 blah. I use the Mod Podge in thin layers, and I will work in a strip at a time, putting the napkin down, so that obviously the glue doesn't dry, and I don't get a whole hot mess. So I'll put a thin strip of the glue down, and then gently tap down and work out from the middle the napkin, and try and get all the creases out, or the best of the wrinkles that you can. It will look more wrinkly when it's wet than when it's dry. A lot of them do disappear once it's dry, but basically I just tap it down, working from sort of the centre outwards, very lightly with my finger. I've seen a lot of videos before I decided I wanted to do the bottles, because I'd never started doing them since before I started my channel, and my whole point of my channel when I do the bottles, although I do card makes as well, was for people to try and learn with me, and learn from my mistakes, if you like, for anybody that wants to sort of set out doing it. So yeah, I wanted to as I was saying, I watched a lot of videos before I started doing the bottles, and I know that a lot of people once they've glued down the napkin, they use cling film, which I believe is cling wrap in America, and they'll sort of work on the napkin using the cling film. I tried that on a couple of the bottles, or one of the bottles, and I just couldn't get on with it, so I find it a lot easier to use my finger. As long as you're very, very light with a light touch, and clean the glue off before you go back and touch it again, so that you don't end up pulling up the napkin or ripping it or anything like that with gluey fingers. And it seems to work for me. Everybody has their own way that they find works for them. This is what works for me. And like I say, I work very lightly, pushing from the centre out, and then I'll go around the edges with the glue and make sure that the edges are really well sealed down. Once I've done that, I'll go over the whole of the napkin with some more glue, make sure it's sealed down and really well glued. Because I make to sell, I want the bottles to last for my customers. I basically put a bit thicker with the glue this time when I'm on the top of the napkin, and then I'll spread it out with my finger while still working on wrinkles if there's any left. Like I say, it will look more wrinkly when it's wet than when it's dry. And once the napkin's dry, obviously I've cut the square of the napkin out, and more so on the Father Christmas side of the napkin, there's a very straight edge, and I didn't want that. You can see it here. I didn't want that. I wanted it to kind of blend into the bottle, because I don't want people to just look at it and think, oh, there's a bit of bottle, there's a bit of napkin. I wanted it to blend and look natural and part of the bottle, so I go around the edges with the grey again and sponge, so that it's not a defined edge, and it seems to work very well. I then decide, as it's a Christmas bottle, I want a bit of sparkle, so I use the Rust-Oleum glitter paint. I just do the one coat. Obviously you can build the layers up the more glitter you want. I felt just the one coat in the silver was fine for me. I then decided that I wanted something else on the bottle, so I decided to use these snowflakes. I've cut various sizes, various different shapes, and I've cut them out using Hunky Dory's Stickables range, and it's the silver Miri card, and it is self-adhesive. Although obviously again I make to sell, so I want I want to make sure they're really well stuck, and because it's got the Rust-Oleum on the top, they're sticking to Rust-Oleum, which is obviously a paint. I've added a little bit of tacky glue onto the bottom just to make sure they stick really well, and then I'll sort of pat it off on my hand to make sure that no glue sort of splodges out. Although I put a tiny little bit on, I want to make sure there's not too much, because if you get Miri card glue, it just doesn't mix very well. So I go all over the bottle, we're here and there. I try and keep the different shapes and sizes so they're not next to each other. And I'm very happy with the results. It just needed a little bit more than just the napkin on there and the glitter paint. And then I decided that I wanted a little bit of 3D, so the bobble on Santa's hat, I've decided it's this it's a snow sort of paste. It's from Aleene's, which is Aleenes, Aleene's, and it's like a snow. It dries hard, but it's kind of like a foam, and basically I dab it on with a brush. I wanted it to have kind of like a bobble type look. Santa's hats, they have that kind of bobbly kind of look, so I put it on with the brush and just kind of stipple it on, and then I get my poker tool and kind of work it around so that it's got, you know, bits on it that sort of stick out, so it's not flat, if you like. And then I leave that overnight to dry, but then I'll leave it, I mean the bottle's finished at that point anyway, so then I'll leave it a couple of days to harden before I put it away. And yeah, this is the finished bottle. Hope you like it, hope it inspires you. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you have a lovely weekend, and I hope you have a lovely week ahead. And I will see you next week. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got quite a few watchers, but they're not subscribing. If you could subscribe, it would really help me to reach other people. And liking it will, you know, let YouTube know that people do like my videos, and it will help me to get the algorithm and whatever it is that it does, to reach more people. You know, it is a learn with me as I make these bottles, and I really do hope that it inspires people and helps them to learn with me. So yeah, thanks ever so much for watching. Take care, have a lovely week, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.